Today I'm going to be doing all right, all good. All right, today I will be doing a reading of The German Shepherd Dog in Words and Pictures by Max von Stephanitz, the founder of the German Shepherd breed. This is the English edition. We're gonna start with the preface, and we might just finish, we'll just do the preface today, and we'll get to like chapter by chapter through the next broadcasts. My chief aim in undertaking this task has been to supply the urgent need for a really standard book on the German Shepherd dog, whose sterling qualities are winning him an ever-increasing chorus of approbation, not only in his own land, but from all quarters of the globe as well. To make this book accessible to his lovers and friends in all English-speaking countries, I entrusted this translation from the original to my colleague, the Reverend C. Shark, honorary CFMA, Oxon, who has fulfilled his part with that fidelity both to the text and meaning of the author, which are so important in a work of this description. The copyrights for Great Britain and the colonies have been secured by the great fanciers and admirers of the breed, Major C.E.W. Bedow. So just imagine the commitment already. The breed inception starts with a book. There are people so committed to this breed early on, that they're already subscribing themselves to the philosophy within this book. And gathering the rights to share with their country. That's pretty amazing. All right. Their enthusiasm for the German Shepherd dog, the sound knowledge which they gained by attending all of the big shows and having all the important points minutely explained by well-known experts, their apprenticeship to the well-known trainer of police dogs in Bavaria, and their experience gained in breeding from their own dogs while staying in Germany stamps them to be pioneers of the breed in England, whose advice should be of great value to all who keep the German Shepherd dog in England. So we have people in Germany working with people in England on this breed. This is from the inception. It is only fitting that I should say something about the work of the well-known shepherd dog connoisseur and president of the Verein für Deutsche Schäferhund, whose activities on behalf of the race have been a labor of unremitting love extending over so many years. It is only fitting that I should say Rittmaster Cavalry Captain von Stephanitz, in conjunction with Herr Arthur Mayer of Stuttgart, founded Verein für Deutsche Schäferhund on the occasion of Karl Schruth's exhibition in April 1899. So I guess an event that took place in April of 1899. For more than 25 years has devoted his energies to the interest of shepherd dogs. So his interests is, they're noting this in 1899, has already went on for 25 years. And this is somebody who's a fancier of shepherd dogs at the precipice of the German Shepherd's Foundation. And this was the first president of this organization that was established. I believe we're talking about the SV. We could be talking about the SV here. He is accordingly, so to speak, grown up with the race. He has formed the statutes of the society, and this, along with compiling of his own stud book, marks him out as one of the leaders in the important movement. So, the Max von Stephanitz is citing this guy's contribution to the foundation of this breed, and notes in his efforts to compile his own stud book. He made statutes for the conformation and breed standard. All right. Further, he is a breeder who, from his own ripe experience, has done more than anyone else to set up and fix those ideals for our dogs, which will be a continual challenge and an encouragement to our efforts to improve that which, just because it already has so much, holds out the prospect of all the more. Rittmaster von Stephanitz is then, today, at the head of the greatest, most important society for the German Shepherd dog, which has a membership of 50,000 and over 500 local branches. It is to the tireless effort in the wise counsel of our president, and that pertains to breeding and education, that the German Shepherd dog has attained the physical exterior and wonderful fullness of his nature, which impresses all who really begin to know him. The German Shepherd is, 100 years on from this book, the German Shepherd, its image is synonymous with authority in our society. All right, and as such requires a disciplinarian owner, an authoritarian owner, who has a firm hand, not a heavy hand, a consistent hand, and all right. Rittmaster von Stephanitz, in common justice to himself, must be considered as the authority on the race. As the authority on the race, not a authority. All right, on his race. One could almost say the equal justice in the light of what he has attempted and accomplished for it. This is a letter by J. Schwabacher. This is the preface. Such a work as this from pen of such an author will give us all that has to do with the shepherd dog, described in the most detailed and thorough manner, which is only possible from one whose long activities, unwearied service, and unrivaled experience mark him as the essential and ideal lover of the race. When you are getting a German Shepherd, such a dog, the full-size standard of the Shepherd category of dogs, such a dog should be raised to the highest standard of observation, the highest standard of supervision. It should not be a second thing. It should be, you should get your German Shepherd from someone who is committed the entire time of the puppies being reared and raised, 56 days and beyond. I feel like 12 weeks is actually, I feel like they can gain a lot between 8 and 12 weeks by being within the litter, staying within the litter, and experiencing those dynamics through their development. All right, we got a few letters here. We're going to skip that. We're going to get right into the book. Or would you like to read the letters? Let's see. Dear Sir, in order to satisfy a long-desired request for a reliable book on the German Shepherd dog, or Austrian Wolf dog, by which name it is known in England, I have obtained the copyright for Great Britain and the colonies of a book entitled The German Shepherd Dog in Words and Picture. Okay. So you imagine the foundation of this breed includes people that are so passionate about it from other countries that they're actually going about like licensing grabbing the copyright for the book so that they can publish it in their country, in their language. And that sounds like a very mutual beneficial arrangement. I will take it upon myself to translate your work for the people of my country, and we will spread your work and also work on this great breed, which still stands to this day as the peak of canine breeding. I don't think that there's a more organized breeding or breeding organization behind the breed. All right, let's go. To obtain the copyright, I went to a great expense and trouble, but I felt that I could not let such an opportunity to benefit the breeder and fancier in Great Britain pass by, especially after my own experience in Germany, where for 3 years I was given every facility to study the breeding, training, and judging of this breed by the experts of the German Shepherd dog breed. The German Shepherd is almost like a cultural export of Germany. As you go around the world and you see people that are aficionados or fanciers of the breed, but they always hold Germany and the breedings that happen in Germany in very high esteem. And that's how the European show line, the German show lines, can be so influential to the breed around the world, even when there are more breeders in America. The reason why is because American breeders see the German Shepherd bred in Germany as like highly sought after genetically. And the reason for that is because their standards of breeding are so much higher than you'll find in AKC. But the German Shepherd Dog Club of America is it's a great organization. You should try to get a dog associated with organizations like that. It would give me the greatest pleasure to dedicate the English edition of this work to the Kennel Club, a club that since its inception has done so much for dogs and owners. So he's talking about the Kennel Club. The UK is so the UK that their Kennel Club is not the UK Kennel Club. It is just the Kennel Club. A club that since its inception has done so much for dogs and dog owners, which is looked up to as a final authority on all questions relating to the well-beings of dogs in the world. To the well-being of dogs. Breed registries for the well-being of dogs. Interesting. I'm not sure that it's worked out that way. On a widespread basis, I think for a lot of breeds, I think we've seen declines in some of the most prominent breeds of our time. Flat-nosed Rottweilers that aren't fulfilling their jobs because they can't breathe well. Sloped back German Shepherds that are, they won't tell you this, but there's things going on there. The tests show them. Maybe you should ask to see the tests of those type of dogs. Many of them descend from dogs that are having trouble getting to 10 years old, which is not the way the German Shepherd breed is supposed to be. Dear sir, I placed your letter of the 18th before my committee at their meeting held yesterday and beg to inform you that my committee will be pleased for you to dedicate the English edition of the work on the Alsatian Wolf Dog to the Kennel Club and to thank you for having suggested doing so. All right, we're into chapter 1 now. That was the preface. We got through the preface in 15 minutes. Thank you for tuning in. I'd imagine if you're tuned into this, you are a German Shepherd aficionado or fancier of the highest order, or at least have some amount of interest in the German Shepherd. And I hope that develops for you and brings you to great places throughout your lifetime. Every ounce of love you give to a dog is rewarded tenfold, and you'll remember it forever. The Shepherd dog and the Herdsman dog, their origin and relationship. Chapter 1. So we're going to get into chapter 1 here, and we'll finish chapter 1, and then we'll do chapter 2. We'll do chapter 2 on Wednesday. All right. So it says the Venveda, the oldest book of the Zendavesta, In a chapter which treats of the creation of the world, we're going into some deep philosophy for a dog book. Like for I mean, not just any dog book. I mean, this is like a dog book Bible, but it starts with some pretty. Are we looking into Middle Eastern philosophy here? It's in Vinvita. All right. I mean, imagine. It seems like a lot of thought was put into this breed. It's like the foundation of its. There was like a vision for it, you know. All right. The Zendavesta is a compilation of ancient Iranian beliefs. All right, so we are looking at ancient Iranian beliefs. I'm gonna look into that myself, just based on this. I mean that the founder of the German Shepherd breed, in the first lines of his book, is citing Iranian philosophy, and you wonder why the German Shepherds bred in Iran and Pakistan and India seem to be, they look amazing in the pictures. I'm not sure, I haven't seen them perform, but they look like amazing examples of the show line. They look like, and I think a lot of that has to do with like their breeding practices there are like almost farming practices, and such that they have like many more dogs in their breeding programs than the typical American breeder would have. But Iranian philosophy being cited in the first paragraph, the first line of the Bible on German Shepherds, you can see why the breed's so popular there. All right. Like all similar traditions, it owes its origin to the process by which popularly accepted sayings and moral principles were committed to a writing at a later date. Okay. All right. And I'd imagine he's likening what he's doing with that philosophy, like that type of thought process. All right. Like saying that much went into it. I believe him. Look at the result. We have we have German Shepherds to this day. All right. Like all similar traditions, it owes its origins to the process by which popularly accepted sayings and moral principles were committed to a writing at a later date. For its material, it drew on the bygone civilizations of one of the most ancient of heroic stocks of time immemorial. He's talking about like ancient civilizations now? Bygone civilizations. So civilizations that are not just ancient, but are gone. Like, there weren't descendants from them, they're gone. All right. This is more than I was expecting to get into with the first chapter. But here we go. Well, all right. Notwithstanding that its foundation and its lore are lying far behind those remotely anterior and prehistoric events, this is the source from which we deduce the right to use the motto with which we have commenced our opening chapter, the world. A naturally narrow idea of Zoroaster sounds like a coffee company, which even today has not been entirely superseded, and which does justice to man alone, is conceived of as a result of an evolution and development of humanity. We can imagine such thoughts and feelings arising in the minds of people to whom the dog was not only a well-tried companion and comrade. An old Persian legal code, the Bundahesh, already distinguished between dogs who roamed in packs and those who were domesticated. Okay. Old Persian legal, he's just telling you about this old Persian legal code. Like he's saying, they already have laws that distinguish these from those. I'm gonna let these infant kittens out to explore. I have a dog here. that she needs to be put in place. And we're going to continue with this chapter. Luna! Ah. Okay. If you're one of the followers of the channel, if you've already subscribed to see the stuff, we're all familiar with Luna. We're just gonna call her Champ from now on. Does that sound better? We're just gonna call her Champ. She deserves it. Like I said, that dog has had many names in her lifetime. She's been in shelters in 3 different states. All right, where were we? Zoroaster. We can imagine such thoughts and feelings arising in the minds of, all right, so legal code, yes, all right. But also for whom together with the fire, he had become the dispeller of evil spirits and of magic, the vanquisher of their enemy in the dark and evil of the night. His voice destroyed the evil, says the Bundahech, when speaking of the dog. Zoroaster's theory naturally becomes untenable in the light of modern discovery. Primitive man has already taken the first decisive steps on the road that would conduct him to his present elevation. When the dog found his way to his side, then only did... When the dog found his way to his side, man's best friend, all right. Then only did both parties first learn to turn this meeting to their common interest by the institution of a well-founded cooperation based on utilitarian motives until the higher developed party came to subdue the other to a position of dependent servility. The racial beginnings of both stocks, man and dog, can be traced back to the same original period of many, many millions of years ago. The first traces of the now you're going to hear some dogs whining in the background. The dog you hear whining in the background is going to be the only dog that's going to whine for this reason. She's still not ready to be around small animals. And it's unfortunate. We're working on it. There could be some cognitive issues involved. But we're working on it. We're committed to solving the issue with her in this lifetime because it's already caused a lot of trouble for her already, and that's why she's here. By the way, if you know anyone who's interested in the American bully community and doesn't have small animals, kids, or like anything else they care about in their house, she might be for them. We're working on it. We'll fix that before she ends up with anybody else. She's great to have by your side alone. But, yeah, all right. Back on subject. The racial beginnings of both stock, man and dog, can be traced back to the same original period of many, many millions of years ago. The first traces of the prosimians and of the original carnivorous animals, according to excavations of the Ternace near Reims in New Mexico. Like American New Mexico? Are we talking about New Mexico in a German book? Is that reference there? New Mexico? You know, if you're a dog breeder in America, New Mexico could be a place that you want to look at. Land is cheap and get to Texas. You'll have markets in Texas and Nevada, Arizona. Nice little car rides. All right, let's go. I have just asserted that their evolution was in common. We must, however, qualify our statement for the genuine dogs, in which, of course, we include the wild dogs, lag behind in the evolution of the mammal stock. Traces of them were not discovered before the time of the Upper Pliocene strata. This is outside the realm of my education field, but you might be familiar with these terms. Towards the close of the Tertiary period, about 3 million years ago. All right. There's a lot of information in the mind of the founder of this breed. You have to recognize that at the beginning. What kind of man are we dealing with here? We're going to find out. Traces of them were not discovered before the time of the Upper Pliocene strata towards the close of the Tertiary period, around about 3 million years ago. The Canis etruscus major, found in Upper Pliocene strata of Tuscany, has been described as the oldest wolf. According to calculations of the Penk, the glacial period, which succeeded the Tertiary, lasted for at least 1.5 million years. And the latest epoch of the Tertiary period, which is called the Pliocene, for not less than 2 million years. So if you're familiar with these, and I'm butchering all these words for you, it's my first time seeing these words, and I haven't heard them, so I'm just making sense of them myself as I'm coming into context with them as he conveys his message. It's a very impressive mind we're looking at right here. The period of transition of the pre-man to the primitive man, the evolution of groups highly developed mentally, take time for its completion. It has not been fully established as to where and in what territory the development which resulted in the genuine dog had its origin. According to Professor von Bunde, the composition of the milk of the mother, or the prevailing temperatures in the climate at the time, is said to serve as a vital factor in determination of the locality of the original home of the dog. So they're asking this professor about, knock that off. He's asking this professor about the origin of dogs, and the professor says, well, did you check the temperature of the milk? You lost me here, but maybe you're following along. If you understand what he's referencing, I'm going to read it back again. Maybe we can make it more clear. Put that in the comment section for us folk that aren't Max von Stephanitz. It has not been fully established as to where and what territory the development which resulted in the genuine dog had its origin. According to Professor von Bunde, the composition of the milk of the mother, or the prevailing temperatures in the climate at the time, is said to serve as a vital factor of determination of the locality of the original home of the dog. Aha! We actually discussed this recently. If we look at the nutritional components of the milk, what it's comprised of, all of those factors, like we talked about what we could use to feed mothers to be precursors for the nutrition that is expected of their dog milk. But he's saying, if you look at the nutritional content of their milk, and I don't know if there could be breed differences here. If you look at the nutritional content of dog's milk and the temperature of it, just naturally, what it naturally is, and the nutritional content that could clue you into what area dogs originated from. That's magnificent. That's magnanimous. That's mind-blowing. All right. It took me I had to read that back a second time to really, wow. All right. Or the prevailing temperature in the climate at the time is said to serve as a vital factor in the determination of the locality of the original home of the dog. And in his theory, he argues that in warm districts, animal life depends on the degree of sugar in the milks of the mother. So milk with more sugar, animals are coming from a warmer area. So if they're from a cooler area, they're probably going to have a different nutritional composition to their milk. I might have to stop right here just because that is so mind-blowing to me that somebody was able to deduce that and come up with that explanation. In his theory, he argues that in warm districts, animal life depends on the degree of sugar in the mother's milk, while on the other hand, in cold districts, animal life is dependent on the degree of fat contained in the milk as indispensable means of maintaining life in the young. This is explained by the fact that the milk of the female female dog, while containing a high percentage of fat, 9.2, as compared with 3.7. Knock it off and quiet. I want a good dog out of you. I'm gonna get it. Now I could be over here just hitting buttons, but she's not of the cognitive ability to understand what is even going on there. So it's not her fault. She's an American bully, not a German Shepherd. This is explained by the fact that I apologize for I don't mean anything derogatory towards that breed. I apologize. All right, this is explained by the fact that the milk of the female dog, while containing a high percentage of fat, 9.2%, as compared with 3.7 in cow's milk, and 2.7% to 3.6% in human's milk. So human milk and cow milk is very similar in the fat percentages, and that might be why we drink cow's milk. I'm learning so much just in this first chapter. I hope you are too. If you are, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know if you're into this. We could be out playing with puppies right now. This points to an evolution of a cold northern climate, according to Jacoby. The gray-yellow flake foundation color, which is a peculiarity of all wild dogs, is an indication of an origin in a similarly cold climate. Every now and then, you'll notice there's some impediments I'm working through, but it'll get better as we go. Similarly colored climate and the varying colors of certain species now extant, can be easily explained as due to their adaptation to certain distinct local conditions. The extraordinary wide diffusion of the true dogs in the Eurasian zoological region, which resulted from a migration, conclusively supports the supposition that north was their area of evolution. In the view of the fact that this region at one time was connected with North America by an isthmus, it is readily understood how possible it would be for the dog that stood lowest in the genealogical scale to push as far as South America, thus forming the vanguard of the pilgrim train. I have already mentioned that the origin of our present-day dogs might be traced back in order to the carnivorous beasts, Creodontus. The oldest excavations in which relics of prehistoric beasts have been discovered have been made in the lowest strata of the earliest Tertiary period. Consequently, the stock may have originated in the latest secondary epoch, the Cretaceous period. According to Haeckel, the primitive root of the genuine dog is supposed to be the subspecies of the Creodontus. The bridge or link, which also found in the sub-Eozoic strata at the beginning of the Oligozoic. It's like oligarch and zoic. Okay, the second geological epoch of the Tertiary age, and the subspecies of Viveridae, okay, was developed. This too, according to Haeckel, forms to the original stock of all present-day carnivorous animals. And in the process of its development came to be separated from the insectivorous animals, which also originated in the Creodontus, and even now to a great extent bears some resemblance to them. The viverine dogs were not yet toe walkers. digitigrades, but soul walkers, plantigrades, with 5 toes. They combined in themselves the common racial characteristics of the dog, the bear, and the gibbet cat, which at that time formed one family, but today are separate. Dogs and bears remain still combined until the appearance of the intermediate grade in the Amphicyon, which also belongs to the Oligocene period. While in the course of subsequent evolution, the genuine cats, the hyenas, and the marten branched off from the stock of the Viveridae. Part of the reason why I'm doing this is because there is no audiobook for this on YouTube. It could be somewhere. I didn't find it on Amazon though. With the genus of that period, the inner toe of each foot began to atrophy as the result of the conditions of the life of the light runner, thus renouncing the aboriginal inheritance of the vertebrates. There's a kitten playing with me right now. This 5-toed or 5-fingered faculty in the front paw, which serves not only for moving forward, but also for digging to make their bed or to obtain food, and for which consequently a certain splayedness was of great use. The splayedness was of great use. The atrophy is not yet complete. Knock it off over there. I expect more of you. You're not doing that. The inner toe, however, at the present time no longer touches the ground, for it now reaches only up as far as the first half of the metatarsus. In the hind leg, however, the 5th in the inner toe, which would hinder them in their stride, has completely atrophied and has disappeared at all events in the wild dog. In the case of the domestic dog, on the contrary, this toe reappears in a new guise in the form of a dew claw or wolf's claw. In some breeds, with varying frequencies, but with others quite regularly, it even appears sometimes as a deformity or double claw or wolf's claw, accompanied by a loosening of the joints in the case of domesticated animals. These claws are called wolf's claws, although the wolves do not possess them. Hawk has, however, occasionally... Oh, here she is. She said hi. All right, they were established. There are. Oh, yes. We have a picture. Sammy, knock it off. Quiet. Stop whining. It's unacceptable. And it's the makings of a bad dog. And you're a good dog. All of those are phrases that she's going to come to know. Maybe not so rapidly. But. By means of intense emphasis on certain points in the Pliocene, which is the 4th and last epoch of the Cetera period, till it produced the genus Canis, the genuine dog, including the domestic dog, the jackal, and the South American Thoris species, which latter we already recognize the lowest in genealogical scale in the dog group, and which formed the head of the pilgrim train which emerged from the north. There are scion species, the alpine wolf or dog, and the similar original South Asiatic and Siberian species, the hyena dog. In the species of Lasioplex from South America, which later appears as an intermediate group of the family of foxes and Phenicus. At an early stage in the history of the genus, the families of the marten dog and the Ottocyon, with spoon-shaped ears, and Itiocian or forest dogs, branched off from the parent stock. The genuine dogs take from the lead, and from them the domestic dog was tamed and developed by special breedings. The highest developed kind, the wolf, with his many subspecies, was already existing in large numbers. All right, well, we have no viewers here. We're going to take a little break. We just flipped the page, and we're going to break here, and I'm going to grab a drink of water. It's pretty cool to see the comments. It's cool. Shout out to Collie right now. Collie.com. Thank you for being here. All right, cool. The domestic dog was tamed and developed by special breeding. The highest developed kind, the wolf, with his many subspecies, has already existed in the large numbers before the beginning of the glacial period in the Super Pliocene. That is to say, about the close of the Tertiary period, in round numbers about 2 million years ago. There were also found quite a number of wolf-like wild dogs of smaller proportions. A student of the principle of evolution will know that the members of the species above mentioned as branching off at a very early period and who therefore have not yet attained the summit of development will best furnish us with a true picture of the ancestors of our true dogs at the middle Tertiary epoch. This is confirmed by a wild dog discovered by Trussart as late as the beginning of this century in the Andes near Quito in South America. That veritable retreat of living animals elsewhere belonging to the past. This was the Itiacine virveta, belonging to that very inferior subspecies, the Ictisian, of which are we talking about Pokemon here? All right. Belonging to that very inferior subspecies, the Ictisian, which up to the present of one kind only, the Brazilian forest dog. And of him, but a few species have become known. Externally, this newly discovered wild dog shows only a few indications of the characteristics of the genuine dog. The long-barreled, bloated body, the disproportionately long, flat, and blunt tail, which does not taper and which appears to be cut off short. It cannot be described as a brush. Would lead us to conclude that from the picture, see number 1, picture, which would lead us to conclude from the picture a marten-like carnivorous animal rather than a dog-like animal. The length of the male, which however was not full grown, is given as a measuring 18 inches from the tip of the nose to the end of the tail, which by itself accounts for 7 1/4 of the total length. The decisive indication is found in the general arrangement of the teeth. In this respect, this newly discovered specimen is absolutely similar to the dog, although the last 2 molars are missing. But this can be accounted by the shrinking of the muzzle. A similar bite is found as well as the lagon, who also branched off quite early from the radical stock of the dogs. Of the milk teeth of the Ictian, we unfortunately know nothing. In the case of the Otiocene, living in South Africa, on the other hand, whom we mentioned before, is belonging to the family which branched off from the chief stock at the very early date, and who led to the migration when the dogs spread from the north towards Africa. The milk teeth show a great similarity to those of the jaws of insectivorous animals. In the instance of milk teeth, however, according to fundamental law of evolution, that the history of the embryo or the development of the individual being is an abridged reproduction of the history of the genus, which indeed Rüttmeyer confirms in this case the teeth of the long disappeared ancestors reappear and form a different and more complete bite than the ordinary second teeth, thus allowing us to draw conclusions as to their bite. The coloring of the newly discovered kind is described as being a light gray mottled with black. All right, I will be right back. Thick, fine, and woolly, similar to that of the Marsupilula and of the lemurs, who, as is well known, are both representative of the ancient primitive types. At this juncture, I wish to remind the reader, in addition, that the down of our puppies, the milk hair, that corresponds to what has been described, but with the difference that as growth continues, the longer hair, which will emerge as an outer covering, pushes gradually through this down. Early growth, however, according to Haeckel's previously mentioned fundamental law, in certain respects with similar substances, serves to indicate grades that have long since been passed in the progress of evolutions of the stock. It would be an event of considerable importance if a report that appeared in the press during the summer of 1908 were to be found true. The English explorer Tanning was reported to have discovered a new kind of wild dog in Western Australia, which was said to belong not to the Marsupilula, but to have the dimensions of the rats and to feed principally on lizards and bugs. Perhaps this discovery might turn out to be closely related to that group of primitive mammals found in the strata of Ternate, which doubtless were spread equally over the face of the whole earth. We should thus have still one more living representative of what else is but a fossil similar to a well-known trio, the hedgehog, the mole, and the shrew, those remnants of primitive forms retaining the closest similarity to them right up to the present time. Hedgehogs and moles. Thus far, we have the following evolution of the wild dog stock from its earliest beginnings. We will now direct our attention to the origins of our domestic dogs, who, of course, like all domesticated animals, are to be traced back to their wild prototypes. However, of this more anon, let us proceed to consider somewhat how we can imagine what the process of becoming accustomed and of being domesticated means to wild animals, and especially to our dogs. We spoke above of these far remote times about the close of the Tertiary period, when the first true dogs and the first hints of man appeared. As yet, however, they had not fully earned the designation man. It is required the misery of the commencing glacial period, which called the Quaternary to give the final successful impetus to crown their former struggle to attain to the full man stage. Instead of speaking of one glacial period, it would be more correct to speak of 4 or 5, with their respective number of intermediary epochs, each having a higher average temperature, which consequently caused a sliding back of glaciers expanding far and wide over the mountain ranges and the adjacent plains. Today, we are living in alluvial or post-glacial period succeeding the last glacial age, the date of which has been affixed at about 20 to 25,000 years ago. The Proanthropus hordes that were contemporaneous with the glacial period in Central Europe lived together in small communities, finding a common bond to the hardship entailed by hunger. They were still without fire, but had some primitive attempts at weapons and implements, partly in the form of wooden clubs and partly of stones shaped for that purpose. For them, there was only one vital question, that of self-preservation, which meant the preservation of the species. Their immediate environment and their more remote surroundings were of importance of them only as far as they had connection with the solution of this all-pressing problem. Alright, I think we're going to conclude our reading right there for today. And we'll be back with more from this book, The German Shepherd Dog, in words and pictures. Thank you for tuning in. And leave a comment if there's another book about this breed that you'd like me to read.